reality of phantoms and monsters. They exist among us, and sometimes they win. Even the devil was an angel once. The world has its own rules, and these rules are not human. Some of us seek answers to the origin and existence of cryptids and the unexplained. Join us as we venture beyond the known and accepted boundaries. Welcome to our nightmare. I think you're going to like it. Hey folks, good evening and welcome to another episode of Phantoms and Monsters Radio, where we explore the strange and the unexplained. I'm your host, Lon Strickler. Thanks for joining us. Now, if you enjoy our content, then please subscribe, like, and share our presentation. Super Chat is active during the show. So please show your support for Phantoms and Monsters by clicking the dollar icon under the chat. You can also support the channel by using the Buy Me a Coffee link or banner on the description below. Now, your consideration is very much needed and appreciated. So tonight, I welcome my friend and colleague, Ginette Matacia Lucas, who is a forensic psychic, crime profiler, and treasure hunter. Now, Jeannette will be sharing some of her life adventures, which is like an open book with multiple chapters on the paranormal. Her work includes recovery of treasures owned by mob boss Al Capone and his associate Frank Nitti, the investigation of missing toddler Caylee Anthony, and yes, the locating of the remains of missing Congressional Intern Chandra Levy. These are just a few names in her chapters of successes. Jeannette is going to share with us some of her old and new finds, both treasure hunting and missing persons. Now, Jeannette has been interviewed on CNN, NBC, Fox TV, and has been written about in the Washington Post, LA Times, New York Huffington Post, and Orlando Sentinel, Smithsonian Magazine, as well as numerous books and other media outlets. Jeannette uses her dowsing skills, intuition, and dream incubation talent to successfully solve projects. She is internationally known for high-profile true crime cases, treasure hunting, and dream studies to predict future world events. Typically, both believers and skeptics follow her postings and predictions. So follow us as we hear what she and her team are up to in 2022 and the future. And Jeannette's website can be found at reachjeannette.com. So Jeannette, thank you for coming on this evening.
Hey, thanks, Lon.
It's good to talk to you. Well, you and I talk a lot, but I haven't interviewed you much. I think the last time was about two and a half years ago. So for those who aren't familiar with you, kind of give us a thumbnail how you got started and your background, your father's background and such.
Sure. So my father in the early 1960s learned about a thing called dowsing, and some of your listeners might know what that is. And he was so fascinated by it, he learned that you could find water using an L rod to locate the water. And then you could also use the same L rod to find missing persons or to find missing objects. And the list is long. And he thought, well, gosh, the Vietnam War is going on, which ages us. And he said, why can't I use the same thing, the same technique of dowsing to help with the Vietnam booby traps and communication devices and rat tunnelers? And so he decided to have the general staff from the Pentagon come out, and he showed him how it worked and said, let's find water first. That's the starting of the foundation. And then let's do this, this, and this. And each one was a buildup of talent. And then you would learn the method of this is yes, this is no, this is danger, this is step away, and so forth. And anything in the paranormal has a pattern, in my opinion. I don't know what you think, Lon, but
oh, absolutely.
I everybody goes, oh, I get the vibe. There is a vibe. There really is. So he sent the filming of the training classes to various militaries. And at that time I was 7, and he was also into dream work And because he dealt with the ARE organization, the Edgar Casey group, which was very big into dream incubation or dreaming. And then he was big into, he had just started learning about the machines or tools, equipment to hear the other side. So that's something else. That was way back in the 60s. And he was hanging around some political figures at the time. And some were CIA, FBI, and a couple senators' offices. And so I was sort of thrown into it. It's like, oh, you grow up and your dad's a cop, you're going to be thrown into the criminology. Your dad's, a teacher, you're going to learn more about education. So I sort of fell into the paranormal. And the next thing you know, when I was about 7, I had my first near-death experience. I almost drowned. And I was saved by a woman who was angelic looking. And being 7 years old, you have to be able to recognize what you're seeing. So I really didn't tell anybody, but I finally told my sister, and she said, I almost drowned in the same lake, and I had the same experience. And I thought, okay. So then your mind starts clicking. I know it's early at age 7, but both of us, and that was my twin at the time. And she said it was angelic. And I thought, is it a ghost or is it an angel? But it had wings, so I'm going to put it in the category of angel. And after that, my life sort of just spiraled in the direction of the paranormal. But it didn't pay the bills when you grow up. I mean, I was in high school and I was, I got to laugh. I was in like 3rd grade and doing psychic readings periodically. And I was making $20 a client, which was really pretty darn good back in the 60s and 70s. But it wasn't consistent. So I took a job as a secretary. And of course, that's a different career in itself. And I eventually thought, I got into an accident and I was in the hospital and had a near death in the hospital. My kidneys collapsed. And I had a very lengthy near death. And I haven't written about it yet, but I'll get there. I have another book. The proposal is I'm on chapter 5, so that's coming along. So so we'll jump around a little bit, but each experience I think we have and anything we do adds on to your abilities as an expert eventually. And I really adore the paranormal, the whole plethora. It's just amazing to me. And that's why I call you and bug you. Hey, what's going on with Bigfoot? Because I definitely, I'm definitely not an expert, but I'm always dying to hear what's going on and what are they up to and what do they find? It's like going to a museum. Oh, what's down that hall? What's down that hall? And so I had some odd experiences. And so I guess a total of at least 3 or 4 near deaths, and dealt with it. It was like reading a chapter of a book or reading a book. And then eventually they told me my whole life would change at 27, which was the experience in the hospital, very lengthy near death. And they told me my whole life was going to change right then. And at 27, I became a full-time psychic. And I made enough to survive being a psychic with an income. So I was one of the lucky ones. But apparently I had a pretty highly accurate ratio. And I unfortunately, I gave some predictions, which I should have been a little bit softer on. I would do regular radio shows in the DC area because I'm from the DC area. And people would call in and say, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And people would call in and say, are there going to be any plane crashes? And I would give some very serious commitments and dates and airplanes and airlines and say, oh, there's going to be a plane crash this date. It's leaving Chicago O'Hare and it's crashing in Sioux City, Iowa. And, when I predicted that particular one, it was 3 in a row. So there is a good, bad, and ugly in the paranormal. And I tell people it's a really hard job. It's not fun. I wouldn't push anybody into it. It's not it's not glamorous. You get insulted regularly. That's 50% of the business. But with the plane crash, for example, I noticed some of my abilities were just perception, and then some of my abilities were dreams, and so I did what I call dream incubation, which I sometimes teach on the side. And then I noticed that I could actually figure out a date and a time. And so I predicted the fall of the Berlin Wall at a party, and people thought I was crazy because at that time nobody thought the Berlin Wall was going to fall. And then I predicted 9/11, and I said, well, unfortunately, it's going to happen September 11, but it'll be in the newspaper September 12th. So I decided to start touching the top of a newspaper, and I started seeing more vision. So I applied my talent with more tools. So, for example, I tell people when you try to develop your skills, you can use a newspaper, you can do touch. They have in the dictionary you're clairvoyant, you're clairaudient, you're the list goes on again. And I have a lot of those skills, and I thought, oh, this is working. So I just did add-ons, and the next thing you know, I had bigger and better skills. And then I kept predicting more and more things. And for example, if a client called me and said, hey, when am I going to start my new job? I heard a date. And so I actually hear information, and I'll say, oh, feels like October, second week of the month. So I'll go October 9th, around the 9th. And I said, it has to do with a company that feels like three letters. So I'll say maybe IBM or, EXM or something like that. So that helped a lot because clients knew what they were looking for, and
Mm-hmm.
they would know which clients would respond with a good offer. And so again, I'm jumping around, but I'm trying to give a broad perspective of, in my world, it's a little bit of everything, but I'm just super fascinated by cryptoids. So that's why we talk periodically. But,
Yeah.
in my world, I don't run into cryptoids and you do. And it's certainly very fascinating. But I got to tell you, I was talking to a friend of yours, a new mutual friend of ours, and we were talking about your talent there, Lon, that you would get street names and dates and
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
And I learned from a journalist by the name of Maureen Seberg that kind of psychic ability is only, you can only own it by 4% of the world. Only 4% of the world has it. And I thought, wow, that's weird. And because I used to call it my cray cray ability. And she said, well, your cray cray ability is called synesthesia. And I said, oh my God, Lon has synesthesia. And she said, well, what is that? So I sent her a note on it. And I said, Maureen Seberg, the journalist, was writing for, or may still be writing for, Psychology Today.
Mm-hmm.
And she writes about the various people that have synesthesia, or they got into an accident and came down with synesthesia. Um, Now, you might have you may have already had your synesthesia for a long time, which is the numbers and the names and all that, or either because you saw Bigfoot and you were standing there and you might have gotten scared to death looking at Mr. Bigfoot and gotten synesthesia. I'm not really quite sure how it happens or affects the brain, but apparently, according to Maureen, there's 100 different types of synesthesia. But I definitely think it's a add-on to your chromosomes. It's super interesting. I believe she's writing more than one book about it, and she
Mm.
has it. Of course, she has it, of course. So, how do you feel about? Are you in fear of seeing names and hearing? I assume you hear information, right?
I see it in my mind's eye.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, well, you've been talking to my friend Jen the last couple of days,
Mm-hmm.
and it's interesting enough when she first called me, a name of her previous boyfriend popped up, and I asked her about it, and I think I bowled her over with it. But yeah, I mean that's what happens to me. It happens a lot of times when I'm talking to people on the phone. I start seeing images. I start seeing past events with them. So yeah, I don't know how that is. I had a near death when I was about 3.
Mm-hmm.
I almost drowned,
Mm-hmm.
and now I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but my first actual encounter with the unknown, the paranormal, was I was about 9 years old at Gettysburg. And that's really when it opened up for me, and I started realizing, yeah, there's something going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I've kind of, it's kind of expanded, and it's going through different levels, but I've kind of worked on it, and I use it for for what I do.
Yeah, you've written what, 8 books now?
9 books, yeah.
9 books, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're again, you open it up and it's a museum. You're walking in, and unfortunately, some of your stuff is super scary. So a lot of people are apprehensive. I'm not on the fence with most of it. Some of it, I'd like to stay on the fence, so I'm not too scared. Because some of the cryptoids are certainly unexplainable. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're sitting there watching the scenario. If you see a documentary and you're thinking to yourself, "What is that?" and you can't explain it. It's undefinable, I guess. But
Well, the thing is, with cryptids, for those who have been fortunate enough to have an encounter, and I've been fortunate enough to have 2 encounters, I know that we're dealing with something that's real.
mm-hmm.
It's not that easy, even for people that do investigate it and have been caught the bug and investigated. They have a lot of questions. Are they really investigating something that's actually there? I know for a fact that it does exist, and I think that makes it different. But then again, my perspective, I get a better perspective than most people because I've had the encounter, so I know how people deal with it and how they react to it. So that I think that's a big help, and I think it kind of helps me expanding myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've been through a lot of different, like I said, a lot of different levels in as far as using my intuition, my clairsentience to work cases and investigation.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps. You can watch some of these TV shows, and I give them kudos for doing some of the things they do, because you got to have the kudos to get out there and say, okay, I'm going to do this. But those people, and people joke about them, some of them are heavy, and I say, listen, they're out there kicking it, doing an investigation. They're in the thick of the scary stuff, getting
Mm-hmm.
scratched, um, all sorts of strange things, from screams to go into your car after you're done, and all of a sudden you see something in the driveway, and one minute it'll be the shadow person, um, or it'll be some kind of ghostly apparition, or sometimes it's 4D where you can see through the person, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, did I see that? So you always have to ask your friend, hey, did you see what I just saw?
Mm-hmm.
Are we insane or what? But no, collectively, I think there's definitely a lot out there we can't explain. But it's certainly fascinating. you know, I,
So when
I,
did you start getting involved with missing persons and crime
I,
profiling?
well, I really probably haven't told a lot of people about this, but when I was 14, I went with my father to a class in Maryland where he was teaching a dowsing class,
Mm-hmm.
and we got to spend the night at one of the attendees' houses. And so I was in my own room as a guest. I was a big house. And I woke up from a very extreme dream, and I had to run over and wake up my dad. I said, Dad, I had the most frightening dream. And I explained I was seeing a family of 5. I was seeing that one of the kids out of the family of 5 was murdered, and everybody thought the parents did it, but I said, no, it's not the parents. He was in the orchard and got killed, but I think I thought it was a neighbor. And that was what was implied. And I said, they're living on a hill in a trailer and not very far from here. And it's a young boy. So I'm going to say, I'll guesstimate from my memory about 10. And I said, I think the person that killed him might have been an autistic kid, and the family hid the body because they didn't want the autistic kid to get in trouble. And autistic children, if it's severe enough, they're not fully aware of the fact that they have tremendous strength.
Mm-hmm.
And people do prosecute them, but they really don't belong in a prison. They belong in a psychiatric hospital. I mean, I do have compassion for that situation, but so I gave a lot more detail. And I guess that morning, about 8 o'clock, so I went back to bed, and about 8 o'clock, the woman where we were staying as a guest got a phone call from a local police officer saying, "We have a missing kid. Can you come out and help us?" And Marlene said, "Really?" And she had heard what the dream I had mentioned to my father.
Hmm.
And she goes, "Well, come on over here and let me tell you what my little guest just said." And what I had done was, in the morning at breakfast, I was drawing pictures of everything, not because of the police. I didn't know they were coming. So he comes over and has coffee, and he picks up one of the pictures and he goes, "What is this?" And it was a house that was square. It was made of stone, and it had a half moon driveway. And in the center of the driveway was the only tree on the lot, and a water fountain. And I said, "Oh, this is where we're going next." And he goes, "What do you mean, we?" I said, I don't know. I guess we're just going here." And I was 13 or 14. And he goes, "Okay, so let's go there." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he goes, "Let's go." So my father, Marlene, who was also a psychic and did work for the police department, we got in the car and went to this house with the stone building. It was very specific. Well, it turns out that was the cop's house. And he was a little floored. "Oh my God, she drew this house that's exactly square, only one tree, one water fountain, all the details." He just said, "I've never seen anything like that." So that was my first police job, and the story of the missing boy was all true and accurate. But at the time, in Maryland, I'm not sure, that was in the early '70s, I guess. They didn't use canine that much. I think
Hmm.
had they used canine, or if they use canine now, they'll probably find the boy.
Hmm.
But but the family did live on a hill. They did live in a trailer. They did have 5 kids, and their neighbor at the other side of the apple orchard was autistic, and he was one of the suspects. They originally suspected the family, but I said, "No, it's the autistic boy on the other side of the apple orchard." And they said, "Well, how would you know about that?" I said, "I was told in a dream last night." Now, I don't know what happened to you after your drowning, but I think there's some kind of oxygen deprivation or change in the brain cells. I'm not really quite sure, but definitely the pictures, the visions grew bigger and better all the time, year after year. I
Hmm.
guess because of the drowning. So now you said you're getting pictures too in your head, correct?
Oh yeah, I get specific images of things or people, and
Hmm.
the names just kind of pop up there. I literally see the names in block letters, and I see a lot of colors too. And over time, I've been able to associate the colors with certain spirit energy vibrations and such. So,
I define it too, which I think is very helpful. I mean, I joke with people. I say green is one of my favorite colors. It's Kelly green. Whenever I see that in an immense amount of color, I know I'm going to get a big job in, a big project. Because I am a treasure hunter. It also means to me that I might be finding the treasure immediately. To this morning, I saw green and I saw like cobalt blue. Cobalt blue can be a multiple amount of things, which is like a it's a job for a commercial project. When I see purple, it means it could be a person who's ill, and so I know a person's going to call up and want to talk to me about their illness and that kind of thing. I don't like talking about illness. I
hmm.
don't like talking about the fact that people are going to pass and all that. But sometimes we have stories, and I'll explain, one of them. For example, so let's say I saw purple, and I have a client that came in, and I said, "Oh, you're going to talk to me about your ill husband." And she goes, "No, he's fine." And I this was years ago, and I said, "Okay, so I'm going to tell you right now, you better insure him. I don't know that he even has a year left." And I said, "He's seeing other women." "No, I didn't know that." And I said, "Well, when he dies, you're going to find he has presents for the girl underneath the passenger seat that he didn't get the chance to deliver." And she said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, so go insure him." She was so pissed. She insured him for a couple million, and he signed it. And in about 8 months, he died of a massive heart attack. So She put her son through law school, and he had screwed up the will and everything, so she couldn't get anything. And the son was a lawyer, so he made sure she got her money. And they went through his car, and in the passenger seat, underneath the seat, he had some jewelry for his new girlfriend with her name and everything. And you gotta laugh, Lon. It's a part of life, you know. And I mean, I have a lot of those weird stories. Sometimes I can say, "Oh yeah, the death is very, very soon." Sometimes it's drawn out. Sometimes it's not. I had a sad story with a client where purple came in, and this was a regular client of mine from South Carolina, and I said, "Did she had come in?" When she had first gotten married, and I said, your husband doesn't have a long life. If you can afford it, purchase really big life insurance because you will be on your own. I said, your sons look really short, so I don't, it might be when they're 10, ages 10 to 15. I said, that's a broad year time frame, but I didn't even know her sons were short, and that's why they look so young.
Mm.
But he actually died when they were 15, and she had insured him, and so she won like, you know, like 2 million or something with the insurance. And she got to retire early because it was so stressful. He had extreme diabetes and, oh, it was terrible, arthritis.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a unique circumstance. So that was the purple. Sometimes purple comes in also when, and here's a couple little stories. I saw purple one morning, and it kept coming in and coming in. And I thought, wow, that's a big emergency, because it was so impacting on me. And that morning I woke up from my daughter screaming, and she apparently had pulled a muscle so bad I had to literally put her in the car, rush her to the hospital. And I guess it was just so incredibly painful that so the purple is a confirmation to me. Oh yes, you're going to have to deal with a client or a family member with a medical problem, and that's what I had to do that morning. I mean, I've had those weird circumstances. And then, of course, I have odd situations where somebody will call and say, how long do you think my husband has? And I'll say, well, here's the good news. If you consider looking at these 5 doctors in these different categories, you could save your husband. And so some women will do whatever they got to do to save their husband. I have one right now who's trying really hard to get him to the right people. And I'm going to cross my fingers because he is severely ill.
Mm-hmm.
And but there's so many good alternative options for cancer or for whatever else he has. So that's the good news on the cancer level. There was, just for your clients or listeners, there's so many good CBD gummies out there now that are
Mm-hmm.
very helpful with cancer. And legally, I can't give diagnosis nor treatment, but they can do the research and see what they need for their loved one or themselves. But there are some really great gummies or CBDs that will really make a difference.
Mm.
Yep, good stuff. So those are, you know, so the first case I worked on was when I was really young, and my father wasn't one to go public on my casework because my mom kept saying she called me a freak. I was one of 5, and I think both my parents had a little bit of the ability.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a twin. She has a little bit. My brother used to call me with a dream and say, "Oh, I had a dream about this, this, and this," and I would analyze it and say, "Oh, it means this." And then other times, my brother wouldn't move on it. He would tell me about after the fact. We had an aunt who got killed, and you can almost say murdered. And what happened was he had the dream, and he had a dream that they were going down to the basement, and he said the flue was clogged, and because of that, there was a death, but he didn't know who. And he knew which house it was because I had a grandmother with a Victorian home, and my aunt died. He didn't.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't move on it and clean the flue. So these are some of the weird things that do happen. So of course my abilities. I mean, I stick to where I'm an expert. I mean, lately people have been calling me for some things, and I do turn them away sometimes. Or I can refer them to someone, or I just say, this kind of job doesn't interest me.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you know, it's my work is a little more weirder than yours in the sense that I have to deal with these clients. I mean, you have to deal with witnesses. I have to deal with people that are in the thick of it that are so traumatic. They're just so traumatized. I mean, they're emotionally out of control sometimes with the true crime casework. So thank God I do treasure hunting because it's a lot more fun.
Yeah, what's that all about? I mean, I didn't really realize you were into that until the last few years. So, how'd you get started in that? And how'd that progress? And what are you doing now?
So years ago, what I did with my father is I would do a lot of his marketing and book him for lectures and that kind of thing. And I said,
Hmm.
well, let's, so I would cheat. Like while I give world events, I would give him predictions on his events and his marketing and see what was coming up in the world, for the things that were of interest to people or what were the new hobbies. And I said, Dad, you're not going to believe it. Treasure hunting is going to become a thing. And I said, ghost hunting is going to be big, 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 but not big yet. And I said, but it's coming. And so I got involved with the Fortean organization. You know who they are.
Hmm.
And loved that stuff. That was really quite concrete. People were great, authentic, just the facts, ma'am. And then I got my dad into treasure hunting, and he sort of fell into it. He was giving classes on dowsing, and people would ask him to work on their treasure hunt. And sometimes he found things. Our most successful stuff, other than the Al Capone job I did, was at the beach. I mean, my dad found buckets of stuff, and we would narrow down the day, the time, the depth, and of course we have, America sells great metal detecting equipment now. Um, and I have a couple of guys that have purchased, expensive as it is, it's still worth it. They have purchased the drones that have LiDAR or
Hmm.
the magnetometers.
Hmm.
And I mean, so you can narrow down literally with the GPS. So all GPS areas and find stuff. And they're using the same equipment to double check it. You go out in the field, and in 7 minutes, you have treasure. I mean, it's utterly amazing.
Hmm.
Do you ever metal detect or you don't?
I don't. I have thought about it in the past, but I haven't done it. Um, I'm fascinated by it. It's just like this whole Oak Island thing that's been going on now for whenever,
Mm-hmm.
for centuries,
Eons.
basically.
Well,
And
yeah.
what's going on there now, and supposedly that's something to do with Portugal and the Templars and whatever. But I'm more interested. I could care less if they find anything. Be honest with you, I'm more interested in the history and some of the things that are coming up with it. But I mean, if they find something, they find something. Do you have
Well,
any thoughts on that incident?
they did call my dad and asked us to work on their project years, like in their first year,
Hmm.
and they did not offer compensation. And they originally went to the American Society of Dowsers, which I promote frequently because if you want to learn dowsing, that's where you got to go. What's so great about it? It helps you pinpoint both true crime, missing objects, and treasure.
Hmm.
And so they originally went there and they heard about my father from his goings on with some true crime. He quit doing true crime. He wasn't comfortable with it after a while. He
Hmm.
didn't like the attitude with the police departments. And so he stuck with the treasure hunting and with we did a lot of good work with crystal mining, and
Hmm.
we worked with a guy out of Arkansas, and we would douse an area and dig, and sometimes we would find crystals 40 pounds, 20 pounds, 60 pounds. I mean, solid crystals. Shocking, but
Hmm.
it was really great stuff. So on treasure hunting, the thing about, uh, for example, one of my projects, I'll talk about two of them. One of them is we recently found last September an oil lamp from the 300s AD in the New England area. And then he had his friends go out with a boat with magnetometers and LiDAR, and they actually found the ship that went with the lamp, the oil lamp. So in the 300 AD time frame, what they did was, of course, they didn't have light bulbs. So they used an oil and a lamp, and they would light themselves, light the way to get wherever they were going, or get to see the water and what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But we have not moved forward yet with that, with the state curator, but we're going to have to eventually. They're going to go out and do some more. And the reason we haven't moved too forward too quickly is we've only found a few things. The lamp in itself, there's only 2 in the world. That was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
There was a knife. The ship is intact. There was a penny. Well, I can't call it a penny, a coin. And it was labeled 328 AD.
What civilization was it?
I don't know. It's, I have a picture of everything.
Yeah.
And if you get to the point where you're just too curious, I'll hook you up to my treasure hunter.
Sure.
A lot of them keep their cards close to their chest. For example, so on that one, he's going back out, but we're going after Knights Templar. We're going after, let's see, some more Al Capone items. Not Bugsy Siegel. One of the other guys that traveled north. And the Italians were pretty amazing with their hiding of money.
Mm-hmm.
And and I can't say much. My dad was Italian, and they just he always taught us to hide stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I have a little bit of a problem when I hide stuff. If I hide 5 items, sometimes it takes me a year to find the 5th one because I hide it so well.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, you're like, this is a really safe place.
Yeah.
I just hid the TV remote, and I'm thinking, I can't. It's been missing for a month. 5 other things, I found them. Yay! But after a while, it's like, stop hiding it so well. And I do use the dowsing to locate stuff, which does happen. It's
Mm-hmm.
great. So that's the New England job that we're going to go to press on that eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So I have another one where I have a guy out in the Southwest, and we're going after Nephilims, which are the giant people. And years ago, I guess in the 40s, they found a few skulls from scientists, and they rushed them away and hid them. I guess they thought the public couldn't handle the idea of somebody being, 8 or 13 feet tall. So, and that's one of the dilemmas, the good, the bad, and the ugly of the paranormal is, it's so complicated. On my end, it's typically very complicated. On the Al Capone case, I used dowsing and found over 60 bars of silver, among other things, in Southern Illinois. And the client, I wasn't there. The client went to the area, and I pinpointed a radius. I said, do a 10 by 10 box, and 10 foot by 10 foot, and go there. And he took LiDAR out. Not LiDAR, ground penetrating radar. And their first hit, they dug like 2 feet, and they found a trunk hood. And when they did, they pulled it up, and they said, Jeannette, oh, it's only an old trunk hood. That's all you found. And I said, no, why would I put you in the middle of nowhere on a farm? And we know for a fact they were there. We know for a fact this was one of their bed and breakfasts. And they said, okay. I said, do the ground penetrating radar again. And they did. And when they did, they dug 2 more feet. They had a reaction, dug 2 more feet, and found over 60 bars of silver from a robbery from the U.S. government, from the mint. And that had to be an inside job, I'm sure. But I do find stuff. I had a client in Austria. He found some things. So we find them periodically. But for example, I get calls on missing animals, which are pretty tough. That work is really tough stuff. The people are, it's almost, like, let's say I have the client Betty, and she calls and her dog is missing. I'm seeing a lot of kidnapping of cats and dogs, especially if it's a purebred or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really bizarre. People are reselling them. Oh, I found this beautiful dog, and well, I'm sorry, they don't say they found it. They said, oh yeah, my mom doesn't want her dog anymore. Lie. And they sell it for a couple grand. For example, Russian blues, those cats are worth $2,000.
I know.
It's crazy. You've got a tomcat. I'd rather have my tomcat cries or not, but I don't let my cat out. Let's put it that way.
Well,
I've
I'm
learned
saying
my
mine.
lesson. Your cat's an inside cat.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
they have to get tortured by us. But
Yeah.
so there's some of the things that I do. I'm trying to think what else I do. Yeah, and I'm not always perfect on all my casework. I mean, I do laugh. I mean, I had a woman call about some missing gold coins, and and here's one of the complications. She said, "No, I live by myself." She lied. She was living with mom and dad, and I said, "So I need your street address." And I believe at first she gave me her apartment address where she lived by herself, and then she moved back in with her parents, and that's where all the gold coins were from. Don't give me the wrong information. Give me the right information. How am I going to find your stuff if you're giving me the wrong location?
I get that too. When I'm at people, I don't know why, but people, for whatever reason, I don't know. They just, yeah.
Yeah, it's complicated. It's like, come on, dude, you don't have to. I'm not coming to your house. I'm not going to knock on your door. I'm not going to drive you crazy. You
Mm.
know, you met the alien. Okay, I'll write up the witness information. That's all I want to do. Yeah, I just had a nasty gram from a client. This is a funny one. This is the ugly on some of the paranormal. I did a job, and she wrote her sister a nasty note about me. And I gave her a really, really good price on her missing child, adult child. And the daughter was found deceased, unfortunately. And the only reason they looked in the river with canine was because I said she's in the river further up west. I said I can't tell how far because when a body is in the water, it moves all over the place.
Hmm.
And it can be thrown into little holes. It can be thrown up on land, everything. Well, she wrote her sister a nasty gram about me, but guess what? She accidentally sent it to me. And I
Oh
thought,
God.
oh God, what the
Yeah.
heck? So I was like, okay, got to back off from this family. So again,
Mhm.
good, bad, and ugly. Other people. I will tell you, I have people that treat me really great. I don't charge a ton of money, and I love what I do. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, I know you do. I've got some people asking in the chat about the Nephilim and the giants. Can you
sure.
kind of go into more detail with that?
Well, what I do is first, what I like to do with any kind of treasure, and Nephilims are treasure, is you have to say, all right, so was there previous remains found in the area? So I have a guy in the Southwest, and he said, yeah, they have it. We've got proof. The Smithsonian has some of the bones,
Hmm.
and I have a new contact there, and so they dug up some of the bones. Now it could be there's 10 bodies, but they only dug up 5. And they shipped him off to DC, but DC shipped him off to Front Royal. And so that was the chain of command. And so he and I are going to go after it only for the historical part of it and hoping that the Smithsonian stops hiding it and shares it with the public. I don't think there's going to be any money in it, but it's fun, and the client has the magnetometer and it's a drone. And I want to tell your listeners, whenever you have a drone, whenever you're treasure hunting, you have to be really careful. Every state has a different law on drones. For,
Absolutely.
so out west, if you want to go to Utah, for example, if you don't register your drone and tell them what areas you're going to, you could get a $10,000 to $100,000 fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell people be very careful because I know treasure hunters are always at the water,
Mm-hmm.
but they're now using the drones, and it's not worth getting arrested or not. It's not worth to turn the stuff in. If you find something historical, take pictures of it, send a press release out. Hey, we found this, and then turn it in. But get your pictures or videos, like your friend said, Jennifer, and don't get in trouble. It's not worth the consequences.
Right.
Uh, so on the Nephilims, all I know is we're looking for bones. So I create a list and a protocol in order to find them. Unfortunately, my guy in the Southwest broke his leg in several places. So as soon as he gets well, he's going to go out and we're going to go after some. We've got like 5 states: Utah, let's see, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado. And so we have definite sites and areas, but I pinpoint a GPS area and say, I want you to do a 5-foot radius or a 10 by 10-foot radius. And I said, just remember, once you touch one, you either have to stop, depending on what the state law is, and you can either move forward or you can call the Smithsonian or whoever, but you got to have your documents ready to go so you protect yourself.
Yeah, I think you mentioned me earlier today about the guys you were working with, the Jim Vieira and those guys.
Yeah, I'm not working with him. I wanted to talk to him about the fact that I have some stuff in New England that is 300 AD. I mean, it certainly helps the state know that someone was there in 300 AD.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think they'd be interested, to be quite honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
Because, even these guys that have been able to go to the island, they're finding dates, pre-Templar and a lot of other dates for a lot of other different things. So I don't know, there's a lot we don't know about the history here in our country. I mean, it's just so much of it. Now you mentioned, I heard you say something about Front Royal. Does the Smithsonian have a place at Front Royal too?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was invited to the Smithsonian to work on some, I think it was Afghanistan, dowsing for them for water with my father, and also some archaeological digs. And, one thing about working for some people is they give you immediate feedback. No, you're right about this, or you're wrong about that kind of thing. And we were standing there and he goes, well, some of the stuff we have has to get shipped to Front Royal for warehousing. And so then we did my client out of the Southwest in New Mexico said that the Nephilims that they had were all shipped to Front Royal. And that was some documents. And then I talked to a friend of mine who's on the board, so I got lucky. And she goes, yeah, they have a warehouse out there. I'm sure it's covert, nobody wants you to know it's there.
Yeah, I never knew about it.
Oh, yeah. So, again, I get lucky. Right place, right time,
It's interesting. Front Royal, I used to hang out at Front Royal a lot for a lot of different reasons, but there's some weird energy out there, for a lot of different reasons. And I don't know if it has to do with the Shenandoah and everything around there, plus all the caverns. And it's just a really bizarre area. I get a lot of weird energy, I feel, when I'm there.
Well, when I was a kid, my father owned a outdoor outfitting company. You ever heard of Appalachian Outfitters?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my dad was the original Appalachian Outfitters.
Okay.
And so, I have pictures of us camping and that kind of thing. That's true child abuse. We're going to take a mile walk 8 miles later. So he was into backpacking. He was a former Cub Scout leader, Boy Scout leader, Eagle Scout leader. He was definitely into the outdoors. And so he helped sell canoes, kayaks, parkas, all that kind of good stuff. And he wrote 4 books on canoeing. And those were quite good. They were really good books because they were very detail oriented. Mm-hmm. His other books on treasure hunting and that kind of thing were edited by someone who didn't put a lot of effort in. So the books will be helpful for treasure hunters. There's not a lot around. I don't have a lot. I am working on a new treasure hunting book. But there are definitely tricks to treasure hunting. But I will tell you, some people, it's not that they're not meant to find treasure. It's like hitting the lottery. Mm-hmm. I have a guy out of Arkansas and he keeps hitting tin cans. So, but it could be he's got a metal detector that only goes 2 feet, Maybe. He was going after Jesse James stuff. I can work on some cases and I say, you got something historical here. But you have to make sure you get all the right contracts, dot your I's and cross your T's so you don't get arrested for being on the wrong property. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I go after almost anything within reason. I get some really, really wild phone calls.
No, I imagine you do. Mm-hmm. So, as far as missing person goes, what's probably the most unusual case you've been involved with?
Oh oh, I don't know. I'm trying to, I can tell you 2 or 3 short stories because we
Okay.
don't have the time.
Okay.
One of my favorite good stories, feel good stories, was a little girl went missing. I guess she was in Falls Church, and
Mm-hmm.
I knew the father, didn't really know the mom. They were separating, and they called me, terribly boo-hooing, beautiful little girl. And I had to stop everything I was doing because the feds had already flown in. So apparently the kid had been missing for, I think, 2 days. She left the elementary school. So let's say it was Monday. She left the elementary school. She was walking home and she disappeared on the way home.
Mm-hmm.
And so they came in. So I guess they came in maybe Thursday. And the mom was sitting there and I said, stop crying. Let's focus. And, it's frightening. And I said, let me think. And I don't remember if I had a piece of her clothing. It's just an added plus to have that essence or that vibe. And I said, oh my God. And she goes, what? Did a pedophile get her? I said, no. Are you getting? And I got the chills. I get the chills every time I talk about it. And she
Mm-hmm.
goes, I got the chills. What is it? I said, she's at her girlfriend's house hiding from you. She goes,
Mm-hmm.
what? She goes, that's not true. She's 6 years old. And I said, nope, she is living in the shed behind her girlfriend's house because mommy and daddy are divorcing and she doesn't want to leave mommy or daddy. And she's so upset. All her girlfriends, and I said, these are the girlfriends. They all know, and they're feeding her. So she's got a cot in the shed. And so the mother was just burst out crying. She ran over, talked to the feds. They go, this girl's full of crap. So they went back to the 4 little girls that were her best friends and they broke down crying. Boo hoo hoo. Yeah, she was in the shed. Who would have thought at 6
Wow.
years old? So that was a really, really good story. It breaks your hearts. Kids, can be highly affected by a divorce, but that really did happen. And I don't know if it ever made that one ever. I didn't go public on that one because it
Mm-hmm.
was for the poor mom who was so freaked out about it. That
Oh,
that was
absolutely.
that was pretty rough. I did work on one in Woodbridge, which was a sad one. I that one was a learning experience. The shed thing was easy to me, and maybe the vibe was so good that it was easy for me to pick up on. The one in Woodbridge was very, very easy, but it was sad because I had to tell the parents their little 2-year-old was deceased and drowned. um, I said at first, so what I do is I go by the first few pictures, and I saw a man looking at the little girl, which made me worry about a pedophile.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, let me just keep looking at the slideshow I'm seeing. And I guess what had happened was I saw her walking and walking and walking, and she was by the river. And then I saw her in water. And I kept hearing the word washing machine. And you have to think outside the box. Well, I said, I don't know why I want to say this, but I want to go to the dam. But the dam was like 1 to 2 miles from the house where she went missing. And I said, I want to go to the dam, and I think she's right there. Well, I was unaware of the fact, and firemen know this and cops know this, but if children fall off a dam and they fall off fall into the water, or even an adult, think of it this way: the dam curls the water of the person in it like
Mm-hmm.
a washing machine.
Mm-hmm.
And so the body doesn't always get spit out quickly. The water cases are the hardest because sometimes it's stuck, like I said, in a hole, or it's stuck in that washing machine, or like I had that other case, and I think the body was caught up underneath boats, and eventually the pressure from the water pushed her out. On this particular one, eventually she was spit out, but I had to tell the family that I think they used canine on that one. I had to tell the family because the husband was pissed. The mother was on the phone. This one did hit the papers with NBC and Jackie Benson. And I said, okay, she's 2 years old. She's not being watched. She's walking and walking and walking. She sees the water. You know how that is. Water, water, water. Flowers next to the water. Next thing you know, she falls into the water and she drowns. And it broke up that marriage. It was a tragedy that mom was just preoccupied.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to blame the mom because she lost her
Mm-mm.
child too. But yeah, water is not a little one's friend, for sure.
Sure.
So those are two of my children ones. I mean, I could certainly go on and on. I mean, I have casework that, you know, some of your clients you become close to because they're just so nice.
Mm-hmm.
And they're relying on you to find their loved one. But I mean, I had a case where, well, I had two cases. I'll tell you this one. It's a Pennsylvania case that I haven't gone public on yet. A woman disappeared. I think it was right near Pittsburgh. And I was working with a community member and a friend of the family. And I was working a little bit with, in Pennsylvania, I don't think they call them cops. They call them marshals or sheriffs or something.
Yeah, they have different jurisdictions.
Right.
A lot of, every township has a police department, seems, or a sheriff's department.
Right. So what had happened was I was talking to the sheriff and I said, okay, the reason I'm calling is the family member asked me to call you and talk to you. And they said you would listen to me. All right, this is a murder. This is a homicide. And he goes, are you sure? Because we think she just ran off. And I said, well, you're prejudging the situation because she was a stockbroker who had moved down. So she's making a ton of money from New York City. Mm-hmm. And she moved down to like Pittsburgh or something. And she totally freaking disappeared. House full of furniture. Everything was there. Her purse was there. And I said, okay, so here's the deal. I am picking up a location. I said, do you have a park there called George Washington Park? And I don't even know why I said it. I just said, I'm hearing. So you have to pay attention to your perception. Right. So I said, I see George Washington, and I think it's a park. And in the park, there's all sorts of roads, but she's next to the road that is a T intersection. And it's the only road in the park that is a T intersection. And I said, next to it on the corner is a building that looks like it might have been a church at one time. Then it was a museum, and then it was an abandoned building, and then it was something else. So you get my drift. But I said, it's on the corner. That's the intersection. And I said, either she's right there, or let's do this. Let's go 3 houses back on the road walking up to the T intersection. And I didn't go. The community member got 60 people, and they walked from the 3rd house down or 6th house down, not very far. So they're like middle of a hill, and they're walking uphill. And I said, look all around. And when you get to that church, you're going to, between now and then, you're going to see, you don't even have to get to the dead end. You don't have to get to the T intersection. It's right there. And so they asked me, well, who killed her? And I said, well, on this one, she had a gay lover at one time. And I believe the gay lover killed her, but don't quote me because I see something to do with a man that's involved too. And they told me that she did have a gay lover. And I said, does the gay lover have a brother she dated? So the woman, let's call her Susan, she was dating the brother periodically. And she was bisexual, and she was dating the gay lover, which caused a spat, of course. And then, but the gay lover wanted to borrow some money and killed her. But I said, the one who drives the green car is the killer. The evidence is hidden in the attic of the house that looks like I said, I think one of them lives in a house with their mother, and it looks like a split level. And she went up in the attic and put the gun right inside the attic. And it was just like a slideshow, boom, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. And so the good news is the 60 people were paying attention. And the girl who killed her, was in the search looking for her. Mm-hmm. She screamed out. She goes, look, I see her. I see her. I mean, it had been, I think, don't quote me, I think 3 months. And so we were going in from October to like December, January, like right at the end of December. Mm-hmm. And she had what do you call it? She had turned into, she had rigged, she was really like frozen in time because they'd already had some snow. Mm-hmm. And so she goes, here she is. Well, when you walk up to the building that was like a church It was an old church, had been a museum, had been all sorts of stuff. There was an oil, one of those oil containers to heat the building.
Mm-hmm.
And she had placed the body between the oil and the building. And so they found the body in 20 minutes. And it was a sad story because, anger, she needed money. So she went to her girlfriend. The girlfriend said no. So she killed her. And she killed her with a gun. They found the gun in the house, and she was the girl. The gay lover was the girl driving the blue-green car. So,
interesting.
Yeah. So, that one just went like a domino. Everything fell into place. And of course, again, I'm not always perfect. I mean, again, I'll say, no, I won't take the case. Or like this past year, I just got a call on a very famous worldwide case.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, I said, I'll call you back. And I haven't called them back. The people are very scary. And I just don't know if I want to move forward on that one, because so far, 3 people are dead.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I don't think I want to be the 4th. So I was like, I'm going to let that sit, So,
exactly.
Yeah. So,
well, Jeannette, we're going to go ahead and end the show. Just tell people how they can get in touch with you. And,
sure. Sure. Well, I have a website, reachjeannette.com, REACH, Jeannette, GINETTE.com, or they can call me direct tomorrow. I start working at noon, so Eastern Standard Time on 571-358-1444, 571-358-1444. And thanks for having me, Lon.
I appreciate you coming on. We hadn't talked, haven't had on the show a while. We talk about a lot of different things, but yeah. So, but I know we'll be talking. So, if anything interesting comes up and we have some more documentation and such, we'll bring you back on and we'll talk about it.
That's very nice of you. Thank you, Lon. Have a nice night.
You take care.
Bye.
Now, if you have an unexplained encounter or sighting, feel free to contact me through the Phantoms and Monsters blog site. I want to again thank Jeannette for joining me this evening. And thanks to each and all you for watching and chatting. Your support is what makes all this possible. So please like, subscribe, and share. If you have a sighting or encounter report that you would like to be considered for a personal report show or posted at Phantoms and Monsters, feel free to forward it to my email at lonstrickler@phantomsandmonsters.com. So next Friday, I welcome researcher, producer, and author Daniel Allen Jones to the show. His book, Aurora, 125 Years of UFOs, Aliens, and a Texas Legend, is from 1897, examines the 125-year-old alien encounter and UFO mystery from the cemetery at Aurora, Texas. So we'll be discussing that and a few other of his investigations. So make sure you join us next Friday night. And then next Wednesday, we're going to have another personal reports edition. So I'll go ahead and I'll have that posted pretty soon. And, we'll have that up there for you all to get a hold of it. So again, until next week, stay healthy. Have a safe and enjoyable weekend. Good night.